This is Daniel Poppy, host of How to Write Good. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Rachel Mullins, host of #NoFilterFriday here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my new show, #NoFilterFriday, where we talk about all of the sexual misconduct allegations swirling around Hollywood. A new show drops every Friday at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of #NoFilterFriday. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hello and welcome to your Soccer Passport here on Public House Media. My name is Bryce Burge.
And I'm Ivan Sanchez Carrasco. Bryce, another packed show for us tonight. We're going to try to tackle a lot of topics. MLS Cup, Copa Libertadores, the Ballon d'Or, the Liga MX, and the Champions League final group stage games.
Your Soccer Passport is sponsored by Squadcast, as podcasters that deal with analysts and guests from around the world. Being able to record remotely is key. Current industry standards rely heavily on internet connection, but Squadcast changes that with a simple browser-based tool that requires no additional software to install. The audio is recorded locally as high-quality WAV files, then uploaded to the host computer, allowing good audio quality. To get started with your remote podcasting recording experience, go to squadcast.fm for your 14-day free trial. First segment, let's talk about the championships. We got Copa Libertadores, and we also have the MLS Cup. Let's start in South America. That really wasn't South America at this point. Obviously, we talked in depth about the Boca Junior bus attack. Plenty of delays, but finally the game was played. River ends up getting the win 3-1, but the game was tied 1-1 until a crucial moment in the 92nd minute, a red card against Barrios of Boca Juniors. I got to ask, was that a red card?
I mean, it was definitely a yellow, and he was already on a yellow, so I can see why it was given. I mean, the first half, I thought Boca was the better team, and they earned their goal off of Benedetto. A great through ball play to him. Some pretty bad defending from River Plate that led up to him to get through the back line, and a nice little breakaway finish entering halftime. Quick to mention, the game was played in Madrid, away from South America for this final. We didn't mention the location. It was played in Madrid, and pretty much everybody in European soccer was there, who any player was there, which is pretty cool to see. River Plate fought back though in the second half. I thought they played really well, and they looked the better team the second half and really finished the game really strong. And I think it was a red card. Before we get into the overtime, I thought that was a second yellow, which earned him the red card.
I didn't think that at all. I watched the replays a couple other times. I thought that he made enough contact with the ball with his right foot to justify whatever was going on with his left. And that issue to me, like if you're already on a yellow card and you're going in there and you're playing aggressive and you're going to basically just a race to the ball, then I thought that was over managing by the official. I thought that should have been either a simple foul or just a play on, to be completely honest. I didn't think that was card worthy in the slightest. And when you're talking about sending off a player, right before you're heading to stop it, to overtime, there's just absolutely no reason for it. I mean, it sealed the deal for this game, and I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I didn't even bother watching the rest of the highlights after that, just because I knew that with the rivalry and with how close these teams were, even though that there were, and you did bring that up, that it was a tale of two halves, these teams are close enough at this level that having a red card off like that, whether it's a compounded yellow or a red card directly, is just not gonna showcase anything. And when you look at the stats and after Boca went a man down, it's just a complete landslide. and those stats were a lot closer when you actually had both teams with full men. And it to me, it completely ruined it. It was a moment that I thought highlighted why Americans don't like foreign soccer, because that one was rough. That I thought that was nowhere close to a card.
I mean, that's he goes cleats up with his left foot, and I think that's the thing, that he gets the player with his body, and yeah, he gets the ball with one leg, but he's still attacking with his other leg cleats up. So I think that's why where the yellow comes in. And as a player, you can't put yourself in a position to let the ref make that call. You have to be smarter than that, especially already on a yellow, especially in a tight game. You as a player have to put yourself in a better position and not allow the ref to make that call. And River were already on the front going in. And then in overtime, they were the better team. I mean, extra time they did take advantage of that extra man attack, and the goal from Quintero to win it was an absolute stunner. Left footer right outside the box and knuckled all the way, hits the crossbars, it goes in, and I mean it was a goal worthy of a title win. And I think in these high intensity matches, you have to have a certain level of calm to you or cool head, and for Barrios that didn't happen, and unfortunately for him, and unfortunately for Boca, who were already struggling in the second half. But you can't put yourself in a position to allow the ref to make that call for you. You have to be smarter than that.
With all the other stuff that happened, we went into really, really long talks about it last week or 2 weeks ago. Does that have a factor on this? I mean, this was supposed to be the greatest series ever for the Copa. When you have the rivalry, when you have everything that led up to it, the drama that was at the semifinal level, you have so many of these little aspects that are continuing to add on and add on and add on, and then you push off into this huge tack at the end and a red card. Does this take away from what this series could have been? Does it take away from what this title means, especially with the game held in Madrid and away from Argentinian fans?
I think all things considered, this was pretty much as good as it could have gone for the final, being in a different country, continent. The game itself, there was the first goal that River played to tie it up was this beautiful couple of one touches between a triangle that really set up Parato to get the tying goal. And you saw the good and the bad of Latin American soccer. You saw the grit, the determination. These guys could barely walk at the end, and they're still trying to push their way forward. Red cards happen in games. Red cards happen all the time. And again, you have to have a level of calm to not put yourself in a position to get that second yellow when you're already on a yellow. I think all things considered, this went pretty well. Looked like a fantastic atmosphere. You could feel the passion in it, and it definitely could have gone way worse for what had already transpired the last month.
Let's switch over now to the MLS final. Atlanta United, the Five Stripes win 2-0 at home against the Portland Timbers.
Game never happened. Don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. So again, the fandom of the Timbers fans in the room making this podcast shows up a little bit. Martinez and Escobar were your goal scorers, 39th and 54th minute, respectively. Statistically, things are pretty much on par. 9-8 shots, 4-3 shots on target. Possession, 48-52. Pass accuracy, 74-73. You basically had pretty much a chalk sheet here where everything was the exact same. What was the difference for Atlanta to actually go and get the win and get those two goals?
Honestly, it's just because they were better. This was kind of the game. This was Atlanta's game to lose, and they played that way. They were when you watch the game, they were just they were so much superior in all the facets to the Timbers, and the Timbers kind of knew that, and the Timbers are very comfortable kind of playing back. And it's not really the possession that was so equal, but it's what they did with the possession. I think that's important. Atlanta's front attack is so dynamic, and after they got, and the Timbers, tried to hold on as long as they could with that to keep it scoreless, and then But then you kind of just felt all that momentum once Martinez got that first goal. Atlanta knew that they needed to score a second one because 1-0, you still give the Timbers a chance to get one on a free kick, get one on a fluke, get one on a, just anything that a team that's looking for an upset to happen can do it. And Atlanta's been the best team, second best team all year, and they showed why in this game. They were just, completely superior to the Timbers. And it's nothing wrong. There's nothing against the Timbers. They did everything they could, but especially once that second goal came, you knew they didn't have anything left. They didn't have anything to muster up. The more that they had to attack and open up, the more was going to leave that lethal attack for Atlanta to score even a third. So I think it was more of a game of, the favorites beating the team looking for an upset. And that's why upsets are upsets, because they don't happen that often.
Yeah. And, Atlanta, this was a big one for them just because it looks like Miguel Almiron is moving on. There's a lot of talks about whether Joseph Martinez would move on. Tata, the manager's moving on to the Mexican national team. So, there is a win now type feel that was from Atlanta, especially for such a championship barren market like Atlanta. I mean, with the exception of one Atlanta Braves victory in the 90s, and if you want to count this one, the Georgia Swarm in the National Lacrosse League won the championship 2 years ago. But they don't have a lot of championships down there. It was a full house in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's where the Atlanta Falcons play. It had an 11.5 market rating for the championship game. Portland was a 7.3, which means that about 250,000 televisions in the Atlanta media market were paying attention to this thing. So I mean, this was a big win for Atlanta to make this happen, and they were able to bring that home. It's just now with Atlanta kind of moving into the offseason, how much are you gonna celebrate before you start immediately thinking about what Atlanta's got to go to try to repeat? But I think right now you just have to be happy for them, just because Atlanta does not win a lot of championships very often. They'll have a parade tomorrow, or Monday rather, because we're recording Sunday night. But it is a big moment for them and for the sport as a whole. This was the highest rated television showing of the MLS final in 20 years. It was 71% higher than last year's final between Seattle and Toronto. You also had some real weird markets pop up in terms of who was paying attention. Milwaukee actually was the number 3 media market, the one that did not have a team actually playing in it. So more people from Milwaukee was paying attention than anywhere else. But places like Austin, Louisville, Washington, D.C., Seattle, they're paying attention to this too. So it is big, especially when you think about everything that kind of comes along with what the season was for Atlanta and what Atlanta was able to do during the regular season up against one of the more popular teams in Portland.
Yeah, I mean, what Atlanta has done these last 2 years since they became a franchise has been a great example of how you can cultivate a soccer culture. Not out of nothing, but, really how you can just create something. LAFC has done it as well. It's hard to explain explanation how the atmosphere, how fantastic it looked. It was all that was positive. I mean, it's like hats off to Atlanta. Of course, everybody knows the passion that the Portland has here for soccer as well, and you see the growth of it. One thing, the viewership of the game was Fox did a terrible job of that camera for the whole game. Like, that made it difficult to enjoy, even when we were already that we were losing. But the camera angle was super bad. That's my one nitpick of the finals. But everything besides that, MLS were fortunate with the teams that made it for them to nail this final, and I think that's really important for them. Yeah, I mean, great for Atlanta. Again, yeah, they are probably not going to have to start from new, but they are going to have to make some major adjustments to the players that they're going to lose, the coach are going to lose. For the Timbers, I think it's more of letting Gio kind of continue on what he built from this season to last season, or from this season compared to what he had last season, and kind of keep incorporating what he wants to do with the team. But I mean, hats off to Atlanta. They've been the best team all year. Hats off to Portland. They went to Seattle, got a result there. They went to Kansas City, got a result there. And, no shame in the way they played and what they were able to do this year as well.
All right, that wraps up Copa and MLS finals. We're going to move on to some awards next. Ballon d'Or 2018 final rankings were released, as well as the award ceremonies. We'll talk about that up next here on Your Soccer Passport on Public House Media, sponsored by Squadcast.fm.
What's up, everybody? This is Christian Heimel, host of Press Row here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Press Row, where we talk about the biggest issues in sports with the analysts, experts, and reporters who cover them. No nonsense, hard-hitting interviews on the sports topics you're talking about. A new show comes out every single Thursday. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Press Row. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Welcome back to Your Soccer Passport here on Public House Media. We are on social media as well. I would like to hear from you. Don't be afraid to interact with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Ivan, the Ballon d'Or rankings were released. The award ceremonies were the other night. Modric ends up winning it again, or not again, but officially receives the trophy. This is the first time in 10 years, I believe it's 10 years, that either Messi or Ronaldo don't win the award. What does that mean for men's soccer?
I know it's good. I think Modric had a fantastic season. Helped lead Croatia to the finals. We've mentioned this before. People are upset that Messi, I think he finished 5th this year in the voting. Messi probably still is the best player in the world, but I think I'll say it the way compared to like an MVP voting in basketball. LeBron James has been the best player on the planet the last 15 years. He doesn't have 15 MVPs. There's just every year is different, and just because you might be the best player in the world doesn't mean other factors don't come into play for this and other things don't happen. I think Modric has well earned that Ballon d'Or, and it's very interesting. He's 33 years old. I think most people thought it would be someone like Neymar to kind of break the duopoly that Ronaldo and Messi had. So it's nice it's a nice story that he's the one who did it. I think it's cool. I like it, and it was something that's kind of already foreseen when he won the European Player of the Year back in the fall. And I don't know. I think it's kind of foregone conclusion, and people are going to be Messi fans, Ronaldo fans are going to be upset that neither of their guys won it this year. But it's nice. It's good. It's a nice change of pace.
And Ronaldo finished second still. I mean, Messi finished 5th was kind of the big one, and whether or not he won it compared to being that far down the ranking is kind of the issue. There were a lot of comments about, when the final rankings were released and him being 5th and then him going out and having such a strong performance in that 4-0 victory with Barcelona, that being a big factor. But, I thought it was a little surprising that Griezmann got 3rd, Mbappe got 4th, and then Messi, and then Salah, who I thought that Salah, I would have expected him to drop down a lot more based on what happened in the World Cup, but he didn't. So it is kind of interesting when you're starting to talk about what the individual legacy of these players are. Messi is getting older. He is starting to have some injury issues, and those things are going to catch up with you after a while. I think the question is that when those things start to catch up with you, your consistency starts to go downhill just a little bit, and allows yourself to be more susceptible to falling down the rankings of a player of the year type scenario. like the Ballon d'Or. And so, I mean, I don't really think it's a problem that Messi's that far down. I know other people are, even though that Messi is still kind of that greatest player. I don't know. I don't know if Ronaldo needed to be that high either. I thought Mbappe was the clear number 2 in my mind, and Ronaldo was still up there. So I mean, a lot of these guys are able to, fly on their name and their clout alone, and that does throw off voting patterns too.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to recognize that what was the voting or why people voted for one year doesn't mean it's the exact same reason the next year or the year before. And you see that in other sports, whether it's like a college basketball or football committee for voting the teams in, or when it comes to voting for valuable player or something like that. What kind of was the reason to vote one year doesn't mean it has to be the exact same reason the next year, because no 2 years are the same in sports. So I think that's something to recognize as well. I mean, Messi he's already had a good start to this season. He could win the Copa America for Argentina, and then he's right there ready to win another Ballon d'Or next year. So it's not the end of the world, guys. It'll be okay. I'm pretty sure Messi's not. If anything, Messi's going to find his motivation and kind of, watch out rest of La Liga and Champions League, because if this is what upsets him, then he's going to have a great year this coming year. But I think that's important to recognize that 1 year's of voting or reason for voting isn't exactly the same exact reason for the next year voting.
Couple interesting aspects. I like looking at percentages too. 8 out of the named 30 players were from Real Madrid. A couple of them were from Liverpool, but mostly you had the Spanish league kind of showcasing what was going on with other players from Barcelona too. You had Luis Suarez also joining Messi from Barcelona, Ivan Rakitic there too. So like there are other players that are popping up, especially from that Spanish league. With all the players that came from the Spanish league, over a third of them came from that one league alone, when you also add in the ones from Atletico. What aspect of seeing so many players from the Spanish league pop up compared to the lack of people from other leagues around the world in this ranking? Because there are a decent amount from the Premier League, and typically we look at the Premier League, especially in the United States, as the top league in the world. But the players seem to be in La Liga right now. How does that balance come out?
I think because even though the English Premier League is probably the most well marketed and is really competitive, over the last couple of years, Barcelona and Real Madrid still have probably 2 of the best 3 teams in the world. You can throw in Bayern Munich there consistently, and I think that's a big difference. When you win 3 Champions League in a row, that makes a difference, especially in the eyes of the voters. I think part of what helped Griezmann as well is that the World Cup for France. So those combination of things make a big difference when you are winning. When you are constantly showing up in the top semifinals, finals of Champions Leagues, plus a European competition here or there every couple of years, that makes a big difference. And I think that's kind of why the voting is so high with Barcelona, with a lot of Barcelona players, a lot of Real Madrid players, is the fact that they've won a lot. They've won a lot of Champions League, and then that holds merit, especially because it's considered the biggest club championship in the world. And that's still a huge factor. I think that's why probably Ronaldo finished second, even though he probably had a mid-level World Cup, and that's what helped Modric win. He was a Champions League winner, and he was the captain that led Croatia to the finals.
Let's switch over to the women's side. This is the first time that the women have really received a Ballon d'Or. In the discussion there, it took long enough, but you're finally starting to see the development of women's professional leagues consistently throughout the world. Ada Hegerberg, the Swede, wins it overall. Pernille Harder from Wolfsburg second. Marozan, Marta, and Sam Kerr round up your top 5. Only 15 players named in this one compared to the 30 in the men's side. But 7 of those players all come from the French side, Lyon. What about Hegerberg's performance this year kind of led her to being the first female Ballon d'Or winner?
I think it's what she did for Lyon, who's been fantastic in the French league. I think she's Norwegian, not Swedish, but Scandinavian, so we're close. But I think that's what it's been. She's had a fantastic club season. She helped lead Norway to the World Cup, and which is coming up this season too. So it was just how well, and that's why a few of those players did come from France too, and from Lyon, is how dominant that team has been, and she's been in the forefront for it, and I think that's important. And I think that's the main reason she's been that success at the club level, especially in Europe, with those European teams, make a big difference, and you saw it here too with her.
With the women's side, you're starting to see more people pay attention to the NWSL in the United States. There were a number of players because Marta played with Orlando, Sam Kerr with Chicago, Rapinoe from Seattle was named, also Horan and Sinclair from Portland. Seeing the women from the NWSL pop up on this list when there were no Americans and there were no players from an MLS club named to the top 30 in the Ballon d'Or. How does that fit in terms of where American soccer is going?
Well, I think the big difference is that the women's national team is much higher up in the ranking and importance of soccer than the men's national team. The MLS just doesn't have the time or the infrastructure or the money to bring in players of the quality that would be playing in Real Madrid or something like that. And it's also the development of what the women's game in the United States has done that part of Europe is also catching up on. You know what I mean? It's part of not all these leagues have given the infrastructure or the time in the past that they're just now doing with these leagues in Europe for the female game as well. So I think that's why you see NWSL players on these lists and you don't see MLS players on these lists. That's a huge aspect of it. It's the fact that these infrastructures there's been better infrastructure for the female game in the United States compared to other parts of the world for the female game, and everything is now starting to catch up.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have worldwide headlines. After that, we've got Liga MX finals coming up. You're listening to Your Soccer Passport here on Public House Media, sponsored by Squadcast.fm.
This is Rachel Mullins, host of #NoFilterFriday here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my new show, #NoFilterFriday, where we talk about all of the sexual misconduct allegations swirling around Hollywood. A new show drops every Friday at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of #NoFilterFriday. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Time now for worldwide headlines here on Your Soccer Passport, a segment touching on some of the other big news from around the soccer world. The MLS expansion draft will take place today, December 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. FC Cincinnati will be able to add 5 players to their roster through the process. Each team is vulnerable to having only one player taken in the draft. Generation Adidas players and homegrown players on a club's off-budget roster are automatically exempted from the draft. Each club is also able to protect some of their players, too. Premier League side Chelsea has banned 4 fans over alleged racial abuse of Manchester City's Raheem Sterling, pending further investigation. A video emerged showing a racial slur shown towards Sterling's way as he threw the ball inbounds last game between the two teams. Police are investigating it as a possible incident of racial abuse. Chelsea has been praised by Man City and others for their quick response. And the United States women's national team drew Group F in the upcoming Women's World Cup. They will share that group with Sweden, Thailand, and Chile. According to 538, the Americans have a 99.8% chance of making it out of the group, the highest probability percentage in the World Cup this year. More information will be covered in next week's show on the Women's World Cup draw. Worldwide Headlines is sponsored by the Public House Media's merchandise shop on TeePublic. The best way to support your favorite shows is with t-shirts, mugs, wall art, and more, all available in the TeePublic shop. Visit teepublic.com/pubhousemedia. That's teepublic.com/pubhousemedia. Welcome back to Your Soccer Passport. I'm Brice Burge, Yvonne Sanchez Crosco 2. Follow us on Twitter at Yvonne Sanchez C90 and at that Brice Burge, Brice with an I. Lots of additional commentary there, as well as our show handle at Your Soccer Pass. So go ahead and give that a follow as well. Let's head to Mexico. Liga MX semifinals are done. They wrapped up a little bit before we recorded, though I guess they wrapped up a little bit further back than when we recorded because it really wasn't that much of a game between America and Pumas. But that being said, we do have your final matchup set. It will be America versus Cruz Azul, your top two teams in the regular season this year. Let's start off with the Club America team. America, they drew their first game before winning 6-1 earlier today, aggregate 7-2. What about America is going to be really important for them as they head to the finals?
They have to be disciplined. Miguel Herrera is known for his attacking style, his very bravado style, but they are known to lose their heads, especially him. So they need to be able to keep a cool mind. I think something that was important for them in this game was they went from a 5-line defense more to a 4-2-2 or a 4-back line, a 4-man midfield, and they were kind of able to get control of the game that way. I think that helped them a lot, and they were able to use their wings. I think their wing play is really important for them, especially when you have, letting the young guy, Linus, get after it. Those are the important things for them. They have to be able to control the spine of Cruz Azul, who have shown a lot of grit and who have shown a lot of mature mentality entering this match. But for America, it's that. You got to keep your cool. You have to be able to go with the ebb and flow when you have your chances. You got to be able to attack, and that's what they did today. They took advantage of some mistakes Puma's goalkeeper made in the first half, and by the time Pumas needed to chase the game, it was pretty much pickings for them because they had to open up in the second half to look for those 2 goals, and that played right into America's hands where they were just able to just open the floodgates and really put it on their Mexican City rivals.
And that was just such a big deal too, because when you're looking to avoid getting in trouble, typically not taking your foot off the gas can be a little difficult because you want to make sure that you're continuing with the process that you have, your game plan, but it is a little off-putting because you want to avoid getting into that trouble. But they were able to do so with the goals. They were able to continue with their passing and their possession. That I thought really made them look stronger into this game before they head to the final matchup. Let's go then to the other side of the bracket then, because I think that's kind of the other side of this, obviously, and I think a more compelling discussion. Monterrey and Cruz Azul had a combined 1-1 aggregate. Cruz Azul moves along based on wins on away goals. Also, that extra tiebreaker factor by being the number 1 seed in the league. Monterrey was always kind of that upset pick anyway. They finished 5th. They were the only non-Mexican city club left once you got to the semifinal stage. And Cruz Azul didn't seem to be able to really have their way with Monterrey during these games like they did during the regular season. What was that difference this time around? What was Monterrey able to do to keep this game close?
I think in the first leg, Monterrey were really able to kind of get their foot on the ball and push Cruz Azul back, which was really important. They had a lot of the play on their hand. In the away game, while Cruz Azul weren't able to kind of overwhelm Monterrey with their play, they didn't allow Monterrey to really do anything either. They didn't. I think Monterrey might have had one shot on goal if I'm correct, but they were able to just kind of suffocate anything Monterrey wanted to do, and they really just Monterrey's only really option were these long balls, and especially once it was tied 1-1 on aggregate, they knew they needed another goal, and Cruz Azul weren't able. Well, Cruz Azul were kind of not. They didn't overwhelm them and take advantage of it the way America did. They were able to kind of just have a very professional performance, and they showed a lot of character. Caraglio, who scored the goal for Cruz Azul, missed a PK earlier that game, which could have really set back other Cruz Azul teams to a mental fragile and breakdown. And he came back, got a nice goal off a rebound in the 55th minute. And after that, they were kind of able to settle into the game more. They no longer needed to chase, and they really trusted in. I think the most important thing, they trusted in the process and what they were doing, and trusted that, while they weren't creating chance after chance, they were creating better chances, and they were just they didn't allow Monterrey to have too many chances. And I think that's really the most important thing, is that the fact they trusted in what got them there.
The two legs will be this Thursday, 6:30 Eastern, and then Sunday at 6:30 Eastern, which means that we will not be able to do a halfway recap of the Liga MX finals. So let's put it all on the table. Who wins this? Is it going to be America, or is it going to be Cruz Azul when it comes along this way? Because I mean, what Cruz Azul has done this year, I thought, has been just so stable compared to what they've done. And you touched base on that a little bit about how they've had mental breakdowns in the past, and past teams have done that. What Cruz Azul has done this year has been able to keep a level head and be able to bounce back and be able to just kind of be calm and grind out victories. And they've been able to do that this year. Will they be able to do this now that you're getting to this level in the final?
Yeah, it's a really interesting contrast of coaches. You have Miguel Herrera, who's flamboyant, very loud, very boisterous. And then you have Paulo Causinha, who is very calm and very relaxed. And I think you see both of those personalities on their teams. Both of them have already won Liga MX titles. I think that's going to be the difference for Cruz Azul compared to other teams, is that calmness that he brings and that level-headed, the fact that he has won before. I think the players trust him in that. They do have some veteran players who won titles as well. So I think that's going to be the most important thing for them in the past. Fun note, the last time these two teams met in 2013, Cruz Azul were about a minute away from winning before Moses Munoz, the goalkeeper for America, scored off a header in the 90-something minute to push it into extra time. And then from there, America won in PKs. That was about 5 years ago. Just a fun little fact there. But I mean, I'm usually terrible at picking these games, but I'm going to go with Cruz Azul. Sorry, Cruz Azul. I might just giving you my stink streak, but I want you guys to win. They haven't won since 1997. So, yeah, I think that would mean a lot for their fan base to finally get that win after 21 years, after being considered one of the big four teams in Mexico, to really get that result. And I think they have the right mixture of players, the right coach to do it, the right mentality. And, yeah, that's what I'm going with.
I'm going to go with Azul, too. I mean, when you look at what they've been able to do this year, not just one-off games. It's not based off of just the potential that we saw in streaks at the right time. It was consistency throughout the season about what they were able to do. They have calmness. They have a professional aspect to them that if you catch America offhand, then that could unravel quickly, where I think that they can mitigate any losses or down plays for them pretty easily. And I think that's something that does have a bigger factor here, especially when you're dealing again with all the rivalry aspects and all the Mexico City aspects and all the other big four things that are kind of coming into this matchup and all the other storylines. It's just the Aaron Rodgers, RELAX aspect of this game that I think will really push Cruz Azul to the victory here.
Fun thing, same stadium. They play in the same stadium, so the home field is doesn't really change much. I think that's kind of a fun thing to point out for everybody who doesn't follow Liga MX is they both play at Estadio Azteca, so their home and away is going to be the exact same thing too.
And I'm pretty sure that they actually have their own club locker rooms anyway. So, like, there's not even, like, a flip to the nice locker room or the not nice locker room that you kind of have in some of these places when you've got shared stadiums. They actually have their own locker room space. So, there's not a single aspect of change for them heading into either game. And that is kind of fun when you think about it because it's such a comfortable level.
One last thing. The field will be really bad. This is the same field where the NFL players refused to play a game in Mexico City a couple of weeks ago. The field conditions will be really bad. They just not been able to keep that field in the shape it should be. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Balls bouncing, weird bounces, things like that too.
All right. We're going to do a very quick look at this Champions League setup just because the final match day of group stage is coming up, and only two groups really have a difference maker scenario here. That's Group B. Barcelona is definitely moving on. They'll play Tottenham, but Tottenham is tied with a 2-1-2 record with Inter Milan and 7 points. Inter Milan will play Eindhoven, who's had one draw throughout the entire group stage. Barcelona is 4-1-0 with 13 points. Definitely gives the comparison competitive model advantage to Inter Milan over Tottenham. Group C, though, is a completely different story. Every team has a possibility of moving on depending on how the breakdown goes, and I say that.
Yep.
All right, so Napoli is playing Liverpool. Liverpool not doing too well on the road. That is the 1-3 matchup. The 2-4 matchup is Pierre Saint-Germain versus Red Star Belgrade. That's going to be in Belgrade. With a 3-point spread between Napoli and Liverpool, anything could really happen in that mix yet. So who moves out of that group?
I think PSG gets the result they need, whether it's a win or a draw at Red Star. Liverpool is tough to beat at home, and they kind of have lived. They grow when they play at home, and they always talk about European nights at Anfield, and they're going to need it because Napoli is a fantastic team, well coached, fantastic attack. They're going to be disciplined as well. I'm going to give it to Napoli though. I think I like upsets, and I like you're a man of chaos, so you'll appreciate that. To have the champions, the finalists of last year knock down the group stage would be interesting, and to see Klopp kind of freak out would also be interesting because he's kind of a sore loser. So anytime you get to see Klopp kind of lose his cool is always fun with me.
You know, that's a possibility, but I mean, true anarchy is that Liverpool ends up winning the game and they tie with Napoli and they move along if Red Star Belgrade actually goes out and gets a win. I mean, PSG needs at least a draw to move along, but even if it's just a draw and Liverpool goes, there's still a possibility that with that win that PSG could not make it along. I mean, it's real out there in that regard, but if PSG draws and Liverpool wins, then you are looking at all three teams having 9 points across the board at that point. So it is going to be interesting to see how they line up. I know the tiebreaker is a little wonky in that aspect, but to see that, I think, is the ultimate case of chaos. But I would prefer almost that Red Star Belgrade get the win and do what I thought that they were going to do, which is play spoiler. They're too good of a team not to play a spoiler here, and for them to upset PSG at home would be just absolute chaos. The other teams that have moved on, officially Atletico Madrid and Dortmund out of Group A. In Group D, it's Porto and Schalke. Group E is Bayern Munich and Ajax. Man City and Lyon out of Group F. Though technically Shakhtar could get up there too, just because Man City has dominated that group so much. And then Real Madrid and Roma in Group G, and Juventus and Man U in Group H. 45 seconds left. Shout out from you, Ivan.
Shout out to the Blazers, because the Thorns got second, the Timbers got second. That means the Blazers are going to get second in the NBA Finals. It's done. Second place. Here we go.
Okay, that's a logic. I don't know if it's a right logic. I don't know. I'm fine with them being second if my Pacers win it all. We'll leave it at that. For Ivan Sanchez Carrasco and everybody at Public House Media, my name is Bryce Burge. You've been listening to Your Soccer Passport here on Public House Media, sponsored by Squadcast.fm.